Go.
Undo.
Okay. There we are in all our glory and awesomeness. Welcome.
Yay.
It's BrakeSec. It's Miss Berlin, Mr. Betcher right there. I'm in 3D, so yeah. Welcome everybody to the show. Thank you, Mr. Betcher, Miss Berlin, for being here. Pretty fun thing a couple weeks ago. Well, it was a couple weeks. It was a week ago. Miss Berlin actually came out to BrakeSec World headquarters here in San Diego, California. Got to hang out at Casa de Break here, and I fed her a little lunch.
Pretty great. It was a nice road trip.
Yeah.
To my brother's house.
Yeah. How'd that go? What all did you do after you left our house on Sunday?
It was really his promotion ceremony was on Monday.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. The whole squadron or whatever, everybody that works in that building.
Right.
They all kind of stood in formation in front of an F-18, and they gave him his best friend and his wife pinned the little chevrons or whatever they pin onto him.
Right.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. You got
very nice.
Got an upgrade.
That's better pay. I mean, he has to wait 6 months, I think, for the pay, if memory serves. Just because you get promoted, you got to wait 6 months for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
At least now you can get paid. There was about 2 years or a year and a half there where nobody was getting promoted and nobody was getting paid, or the promotions happened but nobody got paid. So especially at his level, you want to get that fat loot. So. So I fed Miss Berlin. We had sous vide salmon, which I had never done that before, and it actually turned out pretty well. Won't grill it next time. It it's okay. It still turned out okay.
It did fall apart a little bit.
It did fall apart. Well, that's only because when you sous vide it for 90 minutes at 130 degrees, it's nice and flaky and whatever. So what's up, Mr. Betcher?
Put it on a piece of wood so it doesn't flake off.
Oh, I should have done that. Yeah, we did. I didn't have cedar planks. I could have done some cedar planks soaked in water and what have you. Yeah, never done that before, so that was something new. Yeah. So, yeah. Mr. Betcher, how are you doing, sir?
Good. I made a surprise visit yesterday to B-side San Antonio.
Oh,
Everybody
really?
saw me there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really good. There were almost 600 people there.
Holy crap.
Amazing. And they fed us all. It was great.
Was it pizza?
It was in a cafeteria. So pizza, hamburgers, and the cafeteria was right there. It was at a university.
Very nice.
So
okay.
Turkey, just salad, whatever, dessert.
That's
great. Really great.
Very nice. Okay.
How far is San Antonio from you?
It's a 2-hour drive.
Okay.
Yeah, not bad.
Because I know a lot of things in Ohio, most things are 2 to 3 hours away, but in Texas, not so much.
Right.
Everything's 9 to 10 hours away. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's it'll take you an entire day just to drive across the state. All day.
Yeah.
My wife tells the story of how she picked up her mother-in-law in Frankston, Texas, which is an east part of Texas, drove across the 10 and got to El Paso, I think 10 hours later. And I mean, that's how wide, she bisected the state pretty much. And I took the 40, which was through the Panhandle, but it still took me 3 hours to get across the Panhandle. So yeah. But cool. Well, did you see any good talks? What kind of talks was it besides San Antonio?
I did Hallway Con the whole time.
Okay.
Just amazing people there. You learn a lot in the hallway. That's the first time I ever did that. Not see any talks except a workshop I went to. So
okay. Yeah,
that was it. And
nice.
It was real good.
Okay.
Real good. Highly recommended.
Yeah. So I have not been to any conferences since besides San Diego. I'm going to be in Dublin in a couple of weeks for
No,
work.
no B-sides Dublin.
No, there's no B-sides Dublin, sadly. It would be nice if there was some kind of security.
I think they have one, but it's just probably, not then.
Yeah, yeah. Would be nice if there was something going on at that time that I could bide my time. But I have a feeling I'm going to be sitting in a very cold, unfeeling business office for 8 to 10 hours, and then Thursday and Friday we're supposed to do stuff, but I'm leaving early on Friday to come back, so it is what it is. So B-sides Dublin is in 2024. Has it already happened? It is going to occur. Where the hell is the dates?
That drives me crazy when conferences have their website and it doesn't just say front and center when their dates are.
Right. It just says 2024. They just don't have any dates. Schedule. Let's see. Schedule. 18 May 2024. Okay, so it's already happened. Happened last month. I had to go to the schedule to find out the date. So B-sides Dublin. Love you all. Put your dates on the front page, please. For all,
and everyone else that runs the conference, please do the same thing.
Right. Every B-sides every B-sides that does that, make sure they're on the front page so that way people don't have to go search. Well, maybe that's the point. Maybe they want you to search. I don't know.
It's like putting it's like rearranging grocery stores around.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Look, I understand. We're not web admins. It's cool. It's cool. But yeah, it was good to see Miss Berlin, first person that was actually of a security bent who's seen my office. That isn't,
it's a very nice office.
It's all right. It's better than average. I moved some things around, actually cleaned up a little bit. So what you saw was the clean version. I just straightened up a little bit, but it's not bad.
Did you dust yet?
Sorry?
Did you dust yet?
Dust. No, thank you for pointing that out. I collect a lot of dust on my desk. I should have dusted. I did not.
Cats make a lot of dust,
Cats make a lot of dust. Yeah. I have the window open a lot, so we get, construction dust and stuff that came in. So, yeah. But yeah, so, got some stories this Sunday we can talk about. There's actually a couple that I found that were quite interesting. We've talked about this quite a bit in the past with hospitals and K-12 funding. K-12, for those of you not in the U.S., is elementary and primary schools, secondary education, high school, that kind of thing. The FCC in our United States of these America have approved a $200 million pilot program for K-12 cybersecurity. And the idea is that new schools and libraries, oh, that's interesting, will use the universal service funds to provide cybersecurity help to K-12 districts while collecting data on what they need. I
think they're saying the program's new.
Okay. I hope so, because new schools and libraries cybersecurity pilot program. Okay, so yeah, right. I'm thinking, well, what about all the other schools that are already out there? Do they get shit out of luck or whatever?
And how often does a new school pop up?
Right. Exactly. So, a dozen national nonprofits supported by a majority of school districts polled by the consulting firm Funds for Learning. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. I mean, they need it.
Yeah. Well, I think they need it, but I think what they need is they need money that's specifically earmarked for security. If you just give them $200 million,
it's probably not security.
It won't get to where it's needed. It needs to be earmarked specifically for a process. So
executive staff salary bonuses. That's what it'll go to.
Right.
They don't earmark it.
New football stadium.
In Texas, that would be 100% what happened.
Facilities. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. New practice facilities. Yeah, so I mean, we've talked with the K-12 or K-6-12 folks on here before, talking about, you know, the need for funding. So this is probably good for them to find out that this is happening. Let me see, what is it? They said the news release also said cybersecurity pilot program is modified after the Connected Care pilot program, which launched in 2020, $100 million in funds to help hospitals cover technology costs associated with remote care. They need to have a similar program, I think, for hospitals, or to, you know, I don't know how they do that, but it feels like, you know, there needs to be some kind of earmarked money for that. So.
I just know every time that I've had an encounter with anything cyber related in the school, it's not been a pleasant one.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids get in trouble all the time for things. Well, and it's not their fault. I think it's the fact that there's no staffing and there's no security, so these things just can happen.
Yeah.
Because if you let a teenager have the ability to print to all the printers in the school district, I mean,
well, you know, I mean, there must have been a legitimate reason for that, right?
Sure. Turns out, though, they did the cost analysis because they wanted him to pay for the paper and toner and everything he used, and it was only like $27.
Okay,
that was worth it.
Right, Max Lowell's, yeah. It's easier than sending an email. You just print it and it shows up right next to the administrator's desk.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I know management in some companies who still print out meeting notes before the meeting to read through them. Some technology companies have management that is like that.
Technology.
Their executive assistants may or may not, print out the meeting notes or the document that is going to be reviewed instead of, looking at it on a screen. Huh. It happens. So, yeah.
Hang on. Last paragraph.
Uh-oh.
Learn without limits to ensure all students and teachers have access to technology. Ooh. These include the extension of E-rate to cover Wi-Fi on school buses, off-premise Wi-Fi hotspots, and internet in libraries for tribal communities.
Oh. Interesting.
I don't hate that.
Basically, internet access.
Yeah.
Some of it is, yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
I think we talked with April Murdoch when the pandemic happened up in Seattle. She had to find 75,000 Wi-Fi access points for, ungodly numbers of students. So, and there's no municipal Wi-Fi in a lot of in a lot of cities. And I think Austin tried to roll something out like that, but there's no municipal Wi-Fi. So you have to have an ISP and a bill. And, even to access like public Wi-Fi hotspots, or, if you're using Spectrum or, what was it? I forget whichever ISP I had up in Seattle, but it was like, if you had their Wi-Fi access point, it would also set up a separate one, Xfinity Wi-Fi. It would set up an Xfinity Wi-Fi access point where if you were an Xfinity owner or account owner, it would, allow your phone to connect some crazy ass way there. Probably insecure to the Wi-Fi access point.
Well, like in Austin, I guess if you sign a document, you can have access to any Wi-Fi hotspot in the city that uses like Spectrum.
Right.
However, your Wi-Fi needs to be publicly accessible to other people roaming through the city as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
There you go.
Circle of trust.
Right. Right. I get, sure. I mean, for Mr. Betcher, he lives out in a rural area. So, you sure share it out, do what you need to, that kind of thing. Oh, by the way, for those people watching the stream right now or watching the VOD, that QR code, which is right there, goes to the pre-order for the second edition of the Defensive Security Handbook, which we know one of the authors, somebody... Yeah. Oh, Amanda Berlin. Yes. Do you know Amanda Berlin? Oh, yeah. Anyway, it's Miss Berlin.
Yeah. End of the month it'll be out. And I did talk to Lee, and he said as long as you're not tired of him, he'll come back on the podcast.
Wow, that's asking a lot. No, we'll definitely get him and Bill and yourself on to talk. I think it'll be a nice supersized episode. I still owe you a comment, which I will do tonight. About how awesome the book is, because I got an advanced copy. Ooh. Or should have had an advanced copy. I'm still waiting to write the foreword, because the foreword is going to be written by me, so that'll be great, because I didn't get to write the first edition's copy.
I will save you the hassle of having to work with the people I've had to work with over the last 2 years. Now,
don't shit where you eat, man. Don't ruin something there. Oh. So when's the third edition going to come out?
Never. I would rather write another book.
Oh.
Which is saying
for a less animal centered company?
Correct.
Oh. Shit. Yeah. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that one on your visit here, so we won't go into any more details on that one. But yeah, if you want to go check out the book, it's all of the good stuff from the first edition plus extra plus double plus good stuff. So yeah, newer technologies, more updated, and all that.
Move some stuff around, new chapters.
Cool.
All updated references. We redid, did several chapters. Like the Microsoft chapter had still several pages on EMET, configuring that for older XP versions, and there's a lot of outdated stuff that if you're configuring EMET and just not getting rid of XP, there's a problem.
Right. Yeah. If you got XP, then you've got bigger problems than just EMET. So, very cool. So I've got I have another news article, but I was while I was cooking dinner tonight, because I sent the picture of the steak that we were going to cook for Miss Berlin, but we didn't, because her your foot massager is a pescatarian, so we decided to do the salmon bit. Is he massaging your feet right now? Because he should be.
No, he had to go pick up one of the children.
Oh, I see. So he's also not watching the stream. So we can say what we want.
He should be. I think he's driving.
Yeah, don't watch the stream if you're watching. Anyway, so your book talks a lot about best practices, and we'll talk with Bill and Lee about this as well. But the one thing I was thinking about tonight when I was cooking was, I was like, our best practices are things like firewalls, endpoint security, gateways, exactly. Gateways, VPN, security tools that we've put into place for best practices, but now they're a liability. Every vulnerability, every Friday afternoon that you're having to not spend with your families because of the latest CVSS 10 critical O-Day RCE from Cisco or F5 or what have you.
Or just don't buy Ivanti.
Or Ivanti, right? VPN, pre-auth RCEs, et cetera, et cetera. All these best practices we put into place. And Mr. Betcher, you're a defender, you're a blue teamer, you work IT and security for a company as well. So, I'm gonna ask you this question. Our best practices are costing us more, I think, than they're worth.
I don't think so. I mean, best practices, just think, if you don't have firewall, if you don't have endpoint security, if you don't have email gateway,
you've got a lot more time to do other things.
You do.
Because you're patching those, or
not everybody can. Yeah, not everybody can do the most high tech. Like, no, not everybody's going to be able to ever implement zero trust or,
Right.
you know, not have infrastructure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you weren't patching, then you'd be trying to find the hackers that have ransomed your, you'd be rebuilding ransoms servers all day, right?
right. If I felt like that there was something, or maybe it's the second Mike's Hard Lemonade that got to me, and I was starting to have some lucidity here. But if you weren't patching your firewall, if you weren't patching your VPN, if you weren't having to worry about the newest bypass in your CrowdStrike EDR, if you weren't trying to fix your your logs and making sure you had visibility into those things, could you then have implemented something like zero trust? What if you didn't have a firewall? What benefits are you getting from a firewall? Well, it keeps our ports secure. Well, then you've got things exposed to the internet, which bypasses your firewall anyway. So, I was thinking about this in my head, and I'm like, are we actually getting benefit from the best practices when we could be getting rid of these sacred cows or what have you, and could we be saving time by implementing something else?
I don't think the skills or the money is there in most everywhere.
You'd have to burn it down and rebuild it, and no executive has the stomach for that.
Yeah, and the prioritization from anyone that I don't want to say anyone that matters, but anyone that can sign the check.
Right. And the risk of doing it wrong. Do you have the expertise to do it right the first time? If not, you're in a worse position than you were before.
Yeah. So, I mean, when does a firewall no longer be a best practice? When does a VPN no longer become a best practice and it becomes a liability? Because it feels like what we're doing is we're just putting more spackle over a crack. Every time the cracks more, we're putting more spackle over it. Now we've got VPNs, we've got next generation firewalls, we've got, and it's like now we have to have, and we have folks like Blue Mara who have to monitor those cracks in those firewalls, and monitor for those events that are going to cause us issues. So at what point do you just continue spackling the crack?
Well, you're describing my upstairs bathroom, and at some point we're just going to have to hire someone to come in and rebuild it. So,
well,
at some point, and it will, but I think you have to hire the expertise to do it. And that expertise AI at some point, or somebody who's done it before? There aren't many people out there that have done that.
And prioritizing that.
Yeah.
Like if your roof leaks and your foundation's cracking and you have no doors, like, are you going to worry about the people in your bathroom? Probably not.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, what happens if you had a company and you started your company, let's say a startup, and you didn't have firewalls? You didn't have, firewall is not even an authorization or an authentication boundary because it just allows traffic in and out. I mean, it blocks, which it will block, but it's not an authorization or an authentication boundary. It's just it's traffic flow, right? So I was just thinking about we have a lack of skills to be able to tell management, hey, we need to maybe get rid of the firewall and implement some kind of meaningful solution there. I just don't know. I just don't know what that looks like. But yeah, there's definitely at some point firewalls and VPNs and things won't be good enough anymore. Or the Ciscos of the world will keep trying to sell us whatever the latest AI firewall is or whatever, and it's just really the same shit with AI spackled on it. That's a Debbie Downer, wasn't it?
From now until we retire, I'm sure it'll be the same.
Yeah. I just don't know what the answer is here, but with all this AI stuff that's being thrown around, I'm just trying to figure out, great, now we have a firewall that's, the technology is 30 plus years old. Now we have AI on it. So that makes it better.
Mm.
Did you just, Miss Berlin just smelled the fart when I said that. She's like,
a little bit.
And it's like, now we have a SIM, now we have Splunk and it's got AI in it. And it's like, okay, great. You've just, spackled over
Made
another
it more
crack.
expensive.
Right. And you've made it more expensive because now you can say it's got AI in it.
Right.
And I'm just trying to figure out what, it just feels ugly. And it feels like, we're just, hey, Padre. In this case, Padre, when I said, spackle over the crack, I'm thinking, firewalls, technologies that we're currently using is what we consider best practices. They have their problems, they have their bypasses, EDRs, VPNs, etc. And it's like, we're just adding more technology onto something that is ancient technology, right? Firewalls. Now we've got next gen firewalls, and then we've got, content filtering firewalls, and then we've got AI powered firewalls. And it's like, you just keep, adding more junk to your firewall system. And, oh, Padre PB's watching. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
That means he's back with the kids.
Okay, cool. Good. But yeah, I was just, things I think, and it's like, the problem is now we're being fed AI, now we're being fed new technologies on top of the stuff that we know because it's what we know, but it just, I don't know. So, Mr. Betcher, what would happen if you didn't have a firewall? Would you get owned?
Let me think. What would happen? I
Mm.
mean,
If I didn't have this one, I just couldn't get to the internet. So I'd be fine.
Right.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, there's still protections on the server. Firewall is another layer, right?
Right.
So I would say no, but you would be in a worse security state because you're taking away that layer of the onion, right? And so now your second layer becomes the first layer, right?
Right.
And it's a little bit more vulnerable.
Right. And I get everybody's point that yes, beyond, zero trust is supposed to be what all this is supposed to solve. But I mean, okay, yeah, you got rid of the firewall, but you're still going to have EDRs, you're still going to have VPN type stuff. There's, well, the VPN is zero trust as well, but I'm just wondering, because now we're spending all of our time fixing our best practices. And ideally, I thought a best practice was supposed to keep us safe. And the problem is we have a best practice that doesn't actually keep us safe. So is it a best practice?
Well, in the case of firewall, I think it would be. I mean, it helps with denial of service attacks, things like that as well. Right. And I get it, right? There are some devices out there, some companies have devices that the lack of patching is not measured in years, it's measured in decades. Right at this point. So yeah, it's bad, but still, an old firewall sometimes is better than no firewall. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done IT administration for a few years. But yeah, ideally, what would an ideal solution look like? Would it be, centralizing all of your stuff in a cloud-like environment? I mean, technically, I guess you would still have to have a firewall at that point, but you'd have to have some kind of traffic flow monitoring system that would deny and allow traffic, but not necessarily what we would call a firewall. That's the same look my mother gives me when I say something stupid, Miss Berlin. So what's your thoughts there?
It?
What was your thoughts there?
What would you call it? If it's a traffic passing device that denies.
A flow regulator? I don't, I don't know. Yeah, I don't. It just feels like we're spending a lot of time, and I every time a holiday comes up, I always like to put out my tweet of, hey, Cisco, maybe you put out your CVSS 10 on Thursday instead of waiting until Friday, because nobody gives a shit about your stock price anyway. That ship has sailed. So I don't know if they actually look at them, but that's one reason why they put those things out on Fridays, is because they don't want their stock price to take a shit, and everything. But it doesn't matter anymore. You don't need to wait till Friday, So you should let your PR people know as soon as they have a vulnerability. Hey, we should just launch this thing because we're going to take a hit, but then it's going to go up. So, but I just had this thought, and I'm like, we have ACLs, we have endpoint security, we have monitoring and logging, we have all of these things that are designed to be best practices when in fact they aren't. And we implemented them because we said they were best practices, but we're actually causing ourselves more work. And I was like, I just don't know. I just don't know what the answer to that is. If there isn't even an answer, am I asking a question for something that doesn't need a solution?
I don't know. Remember when we didn't have firewalls? Like, we hooked up to the internet at home and we got all these pop-ups on our Windows box because people were sending, what were those messages called?
Oh, yeah.
Pop-up. You can send a pop-up to anybody. Right?
Yeah.
Like Novell NetWare, whenever you used to be able to pop it up and you used to be able to talk to people through the terminal. I loved that. That was great. It freaked people out when I found it on the internet, and I wasn't even an IT admin. They had it open in our network in Monterey when I was in the Navy, so I would just open up a Novell NetWare or whatever, and I'd send a message to somebody who was on that computer, on that IP address, or what was it, IPX? We didn't even have IP at the time, right? And it was like, hey, what you doing? They're like, and then they would send something to IT, and they're like, Brian, stop using the Novell NetWare thing. You're not supposed to use that. And I was like, sorry, because there were no. It was completely open, admin, non-admin, whatever. I was a training guy I was a E3 training guy over there doing stuff, but
it was nice until hackers started doing it.
Right.
And then it was time consuming.
Right. Yeah.
You get all these pop-ups all day long, and then a firewall put a stop to that.
Did it? I mean, we just traded ads for, whatever the NetWare pop-ups were or whatever.
Yeah, but think of it as spam. Do you know how many millions of emails that you don't get because you have spam filtering on your gateway? Right.
Oh, well, there you go. There's another best practice that ends up costing us a lot of time and effort. Spam filtering, tar pitting,
But
I guess
your employees wouldn't get anything done via email because they would have to filter through 200 times more spam than actual work.
Right. So okay. So that I actually had this thought the other day too. I don't need at work external email. I don't need external email access. If they took it away from me, I would be okay with that.
You don't talk to vendors?
No.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I use email.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, a lot of the people that I see on our internal Slack chat, Slack would be the only thing I'd have that I would probably reach out, but we have an external Slack for that, like, third party outside Slack or whatever. I have no need. The only external emails I get is when I've talked to a vendor in another job or something like that. And, we were talking about contracts or something. In that case, yes, I would say 1% of my time in the last 3+ years, I have needed external access, which means
Well,
there could be a solution there for that. Like, it's like, okay, I could send it to this, and then, they could, forward it on with a fake email address or some kind of thing there. But I would imagine that there's a good number of people who do not need external email access, sending or receiving. If it could, and I think that's why Slack is become as big as it is, because it's completely internal. You don't have to send anything externally, so you don't get phishes, you don't get ads, you don't. So,
and you don't, if, for example, you work on a tool, right? Whatever that tool is, it was provided by an external vendor. You've got to sign POs, DocuSign, things like that from them. When you log in, you have to confirm your email address in order to create the account. And there's a lot of things like that where you get external email.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Account creation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like it's for Slack and stuff, whenever, so I'm on the, hey, is this a phish, Slack channel or whatever. And every time I see these email address, emails, people saying, hey, I think I've been phished or whatever, I'm like, do you advertise where you work on LinkedIn? And they're like, well, yes, I'm very proud of where I work at. And I'm like, that's your problem right there. Mm-hmm. That's why you get phished. That's why you get shitty emails, and you share where you work, and a little OSINT, and turn off external and internal email, or external email access to people. I think would be kind of I think that would be a best practice that would be low maintenance. I think that's the thing. It's like our best practices need to be low maintenance, and I think a lot of our best practices are not. Sorry,
people in our positions need external email, but I can see where there's a lot of positions that don't need it.
Right. I would say your average developer doesn't need external email access. And that's the sound of everybody leaving the stream. Yeah. I would say they would need external access for some things, like maybe they're putting it up into GitHub or what have you. Yeah, I would say external email, maybe not. Don't use your work email for personal stuff. And that's the other thing. It's like, proper email policy, but it feels like our best practices, we need to review those. Maybe we need to look at those and look at some of these things and ask a hard question. Is our best practice firewall actually low maintenance? They should be low maintenance. It should be, almost set it and forget it. It should be like a best practice is like, yeah, we got this thing and it does us, it does us good the whole time. The problem is, I don't know if it's by design, but the Ciscos of the world require care and feeding. And it's like, and maybe that's where it's like, maybe some of our best practices don't need to be a box that goes bing. I know I'm the wrong person to be probably talking about all this stuff, but
I've noticed, I think Microsoft had an event last year, a big event from the security standpoint. And ever since then, they've cranked up the email security to like 10. They're just blocking everything, and they're not letting you type in exceptions and things like that. So,
Speaking of Windows,
hard to maintain.
So in the last week or so, the internet went to shit over recall.
Yes.
So I haven't had a chance to talk to y'all since the internet went to shit over what recall was. What's y'all's thoughts on it? I mean, maybe if you can keep what you learned on Twitter about it out of the way, but what was your thoughts on it?
I mean, I don't like the idea.
How so?
Because what I'm doing could potentially be replayed by others.
Okay.
So, and I don't do anything that I'm embarrassed about, but it's just the fact that somebody could. I like privacy. That's me.
Right.
And that's not privacy right there.
No, that's spyware. Been spyware for years, and now it's a feature.
Right.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, because, I don't do this often enough, but I was trying to figure out what the impetus was. And my thought was, well, Windows search as it is kind of sucks. Doesn't work for me. I will go search for a file and it just will not find it. PDF or whatever. It doesn't work like, if they can make Windows search work like Google did, great. This is the extension of search, because I want to be able to go and see what file I was editing three days ago. Or I want to be able to know, that site I visited three days ago. And I'm not a Recall fan. I haven't used Recall yet. As a matter of fact, it's only available on certain machines, or Copilot Plus, I think, if you actually buy Copilot. There have been people on Twitter that saying, hey, it's a forensic nightmare. It saves snapshots of everything, including, cryptographic seeds. It, keeps, 2FA codes. It will, it keeps all of that stuff. Now, some people have suggested that, they have 10,000 plus security professionals in Microsoft and apparently didn't talk to any of them. I'd like to actually use it instead of listening to somebody suggest something on Twitter, just to see what it's about. Because I understand they've added some additional security controls, like you have to have Windows Hello set up and you have to have all these things. So, Mr. Butcher, to your point, you're not ashamed of, stuff that you do on your work machine. Do you do personal stuff on your work machine? I mean, are you buying?
Not on my work machine.
Are you buying GIMP masks or something on Amazon, or
Not at work, no.
See, I learned a long time ago when I worked at a company with you that maybe I shouldn't mix business and pleasure together, and because I'm still finding shit in my Google Drive from the workplace that we used to have, even though some of that and I vowed at that point, I was like, everything's going to be separate. So, Miss Berlin seen my office, my work computer's right here, my play computer's right here. I don't log into anything personal except Slack. That is the only thing that I do on there. My work computer is my work computer. If I need to move anything over, I actually use Slack to move screenshots or something. But I would actually like to see what it's about first before I, completely, throw it away. Because there are a lot of folks on, social media that's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And I'm like, I'm hoping that people actually had thoughts about this, because security people, we automatically go to the negative, right? What was that? What was that, Ms. Berlin?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
agree. Yeah, I agree.
And maybe they're, I'm hoping that it's just like an extension of search, and they'll figure out ways to, say, okay, there's a cryptographic key here, or there's, your API secrets or something like that, and figure out how to remove those, or you can, suggest that you don't want to have those things. I think they're innovating.
Didn't they change it? They changed it so you had to opt in.
Right. It definitely was opt-in, and now you have to have Windows Hello installed and running, which means either you have to have a separate PIN or a fingerprint, or Windows Hello, the camera feature,
Right.
And that has to be enabled by the person. So it's not like the person who's going to be on the machine is going to have that. Now, to everyone else's point, my thought was, well, company could enable that for you, and it could. Recall is a timeline, right? So it can show when you may or may not be working. It could show, what you were doing at 3 o'clock. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be the first bit of spyware that a company had installed on a box to see if people were working. I mean, we cover our cameras for a reason, because it's easy to turn those on remotely.
That's one of the things that I can't remember when it was or who I talked to, but around how many times like software platform, hardware developers, business owners, whoever, don't, they may think of like the bad situations for hacking, whatever,
Right.
but they never take into account like safety of the children sometimes, or safety of women with really bad, controlling spouses, or
Right.
someone trying to escape a really unsafe situation. And they
Right.
don't take that into account when building and designing those things. Like,
Right.
I think it was like when it was one of the messaging apps that you didn't have to be a friend with somebody to send messages, right? So it was like very turned into like stalkers dream, right? Because you can harass and stalk somebody if you can't, and if you can't block them, that's like a nightmare. So
Right.
it just makes me think of that kind of stuff when these
Right.
things come out. It's like, oh well, you could have a really terrible person trying to
Yeah.
track your move by putting it on there too.
Yeah. I know like AirTags came out and everybody was like, hey,
Right.
great, I can find lost things. And then everybody was like, well, wait, you can also use them to stalk people with.
Yeah.
And, it's not the only time that I've seen that. I can't go into any kind of specifics here, but there's a lot of, hey, we've got this thing that will help us find our lost dog or what have you. And it's a nice, small little medallion that you can put on your dog's collar, and it will allow you to track them via Wi-Fi in the neighborhoods or whatever. And they're being altruistic. They don't think that it will be used in a negative manner because, hey, I'm doing something that's going to help somebody find their dog, or what have you. And then it's like, oh, what happens if somebody bad wants to do something? Oh, they won't do anything bad with it. It's like, it goes back to the whole thing.
Oh.
Why would they hack us? We're a hospital. Who would hack a hospital?
They're terrible people.
There are bad people in this world, and you've forgotten that when you're building these products. But I mean, it's not the first time we've seen technology. It's like, hey, this will help us find lost things. Well, it also help you track found things as well. That kind of thing. So, but yeah, so the bit here that they have for their blurb on Windows, and I put it the chat in there. He said, search across time to find the content you need, then re-engage with it. With Recall, you have an explorable timeline of your PC's past. Just describe how you remember it, and Recall will retrieve the moment you saw it. It sounds like snapshots in VMs or something like that, where it's like if you need to go back in time in your VM, you just pull up the snapshot you need or what have you. And actually they use snapshots. Snapshots are taken every 5 seconds while content on the screen is different from the previous snapshot. Your snapshots are then locally stored and locally analyzed in your PC. I saw that there was quite a bit in the way of hard drive requirements for this. It's like, you've got to have 256 gig of memory, hard drive space minimum. I was like, wow, that's a lot of thumb drive. That's a lot of drive space. You're not going to be able to buy a 256 gig, Surface anymore for the cheap, and just use thumb drives. You're going to have a minimum of 512. But yeah. My concern there is to Mr. Betcher, spyware, and to yours, Miss Berlin, is, will we be told it's work if we're being opted into that? And will we have any choice? And what does that look like? Is, I imagine privacy lawyers and legal folks at big organizations are discussing this right now, because it is an invasion of privacy. It could be a GDPR violation. It could be, a way to blackmail people, or to, create a paper trail to get rid of somebody. We opted them into, Recall, and we found out that they haven't done any work for a week and a half. And it's like, oh, okay, did you let them know that? No. Oh, okay, there's a lawsuit on your hands.
So my thoughts are, I wouldn't implement it in my organization if I had a choice. I would just say, no, we're not going to do that to people. We want to assure them that they're not being spied on, right? when I think a couple of times when I was installing a security suite on somebody, maybe that IT missed. I'm like, hey, I noticed you didn't have this. And they were concerned, like, oh, is this going to spy on me? You know, things like that.
Right.
And so I had to reassure them, no, all we're seeing is, you know, malicious software, things like that.
Right. Right.
If a manager feels that their employee is not doing the job, they ought to know in other ways, like, oh, I gave them this assignment and I didn't get it, you know, back. And there's a history there. There's a history of being late, untimely, crappy work, you know, things like that. You don't have to resort to spying on them or creating some timeline. And I've been requested this before, like, hey, can you give me like the network connections for Bob, you know, between this day and this day? Because I have a feeling he wasn't doing, you know, there's other ways to do that, like talk to them, right?
Right. Well, I mean, they don't want the direct confrontation, right? They want to they want VPN logs like, hey, you know, Bob hasn't logged in for 3 days on the VPN, and how's he doing his job if he isn't on the VPN? You know, they want that additional, like, you know, hey, what were you doing for those 3 days, Bob? Well, I was quiet vacationing, or you know, whatever they call the process now. But you know, I think, and you know, sometimes I wonder if they put out products. I think, I don't want to say they did this on purpose, but when they put out recall, the first thing everybody did was, you know, blow up on social media, and then it was like, oh no, now we're going to add controls. So it's like, you know, if you go to that support.microsoft site, they said you can block certain apps. So Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Opera blocks websites and private filter browsing activity, banking websites. You can actually say what you don't want. Problem is, it's like you're opting out once you've been opted in. You have to opt out those things instead of saying, hey, when I'm working on PDFs, you know, is this something you want to, you know, when you save it, it'll be like, hey, do you also want to copilot, you know, want to recall this or whatever, you know, making it as and, you know, instead of a, you know, like a, hey, we're going to force it automatically.
And how does it work with compliance?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's like, are you going to ask for permission to save us, you know, a snapshot every 5 minutes? You know, hey, can we save this snapshot? Can we say, you know?
Yeah, like I'm working in my EMR and, you know, I forgot what patient I was working on. Can I just look up the patient name and it's going to take me to their medical record and the software that I want?
Right. Yeah. I mean, ideally, you're going to have a recall for each, you know, I don't know how often this happens anymore, but you do have sometimes your computers with multiple users. So is it going to store each person's recall? It probably will. And that's a lot of space on the hard drive. So instead of a 3-week buffer for one person on the entire computer, you may have a 1-week buffer or what have you. But yeah, they're saying, you know, managing your snapshots and disk space. You can configure your disk space based on, you know, how many snapshots. So for a 256 gig drive, the storage allocation is 10% roughly. And so it's like, okay, that's 10% of the hard drive space going to something else. I'm assuming it will give that up. If you're at 23 gigs, it's going to be like, okay, I'm going to give up that space. But, yeah, I was this close to buying like one of the new Surfaces, like the base model with the Snapdragon PC on it and everything, just to test out, you know, this. I've got travel coming up, so I was like, oh, I'll be able to use it on the plane and you know watch, you know, movies and stuff. But yeah, I wanted to get one just to see what it was about, and I'm sure it'll be rolled out to the Intel and the AMD folks soon enough. But there's going to be some hard questions, and I imagine that we'll see stories at some point in the near future about some company that's enabled it and didn't tell people, and then they'll be in a class action or something like that. Because companies won't think this through; they'll just think, "Oh, well, we're justified in doing this. We have the privilege of doing it because you know they're our employee, and we should be monitoring them."
And isn't I don't know what the percentage of market share Microsoft has in like enterprise land versus home use. But I thought enterprise was way higher.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah.
Right. So I'm real surprised that like that would be what they picked.
Right. Right. I mean, the problem is there'll be people that will, I mean, when the telemetry stuff came out with Windows 11, the first thing everybody was crying, hey, shit's getting sent to Microsoft. I don't know what it's about. They tried to explain it, but, people will turn that off to this day. They don't like the telemetry stuff that comes out. And so I'm sure that this will come out. People will opt out of it, which is, good. I mean, there's other technologies that get opted in or opted out. So I definitely think we won't see a huge adoption. It feels like we won't see a huge adoption from normal people because there'll be a distrust of what it is. But I think organizations will definitely try to figure out how they can opt in people without necessarily opting them in. So I sound like that guy. I sound like the folks on Twitter now. So yeah, it sucks. But I mean, even Zoom's got this AI companion. I don't know what the hell it is. I haven't clicked on it. I don't want to, lose our.
I haven't found an AI companion yet that hasn't sucked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've actually used, I actually have the Windows 11 Copilot here. Was it the Chat GPT thing? Yeah, Copilot preview on my computer. I don't have the recall stuff yet, but I haven't hated it. I mean, I'm, making art and it's got questions. So far, it hasn't been wrong, but I'm just, I
like ChatGPT and I like Claude. That's another one that we use, but
Claude.
Yeah,
Claude.
Anthropic is Claude.
Okay.
Those are the two major ones that I use. But I know we've had people use like GitLab has one, and then Google has something tied in that is supposedly supposed to help us like with BigQuery, and all of them are terrible.
Right. Oh, thank you, the Shy Hat. I think it's Shy Hat, not the Shite. Yeah, it's the Shy Hat.
Now we lost another viewer.
Ah, damn it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for chatting with us for the first time. If you have any questions or anything, the Shite. Yeah, see, I was right. There, Miss Berlin.
I just don't think that's the first thing you should say.
I know, man. I saw they followed us the other day, and I was like, the Shy Hat? Shy. If I say it faster, it sounds like the Shite.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. You win the internet's for best username right now. So until somebody else comes in, but yeah. So I think this will be another best practice. It's like we're going to have security AIs. They're going to be added to things, and then we're going to have to figure out what we do with them or how we integrate those, or it's going to be yet another best practice that we're going to have to curate. We're going to have to spend time fixing. And at the same time, the bad guys are just getting around that shit with no problem. Right. And I don't know what that looks like. Yeah, the Shy Hat. Yes, that's what I said. Yes. No, it's a great name. That's a frog. Okay. But yeah, okay, so Mr. Betcher, I want to go back to something you said. You talked about the work that was being done. Can we ever have too much technology for best practices? Is there a happy medium between no technology at all and every fucking blinking box known to man under your purview?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, too much is too much, and you have to do a capability matrix to make sure that you don't have tons of overlap.
Capability matrix. Is that the thing that you're supposed to do when you find out you're only using 70% of everything that you use, like file integrity monitoring or whatever?
Right.
Yeah, well, if you have 5 tools that are capable of doing the same thing,
right?
Maybe you should consolidate at that point. Save some money, save some time, right?
Yeah.
And be able to learn one tool instead of all the different ones, right?
Right.
Maybe you have 5 tools, and you can condense it down to 3 based on what their capabilities are. A lot of these big enterprise tools can do multiple things. You just have to buy that module for that tool, right? And it integrates.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking, and I guess other than saving the company money on licensing or, buying whatever the newest, POS of that, next gen is, you can also say, well, I'll have another 5 to 10 hours every week where I can do something else. Or maybe you don't tell them that, and then it's like, I've got 5 to 10 hours every week. I can, work on this other project that I've got. But yeah, I don't know. I was just having that thought, and I'm like, what if we're, our security best practices are working ourselves and our IT people to death because of care and maintenance? It just feels like a best practice needs to be low maintenance is all I'm thinking here. I think between us 3 talking, I think I figured it out. It's like, maybe when you're deciding on, vendor work or something to do, that needs to be a, criteria that you use. It's like, well, how much, what's the care and feeding of the thing? Well, it's going to take you roughly 7 hours every week. 7?
yeah.
Really? Shit. And, there, there should be a maximum. It's like, hey, we're not going to spend more than 3 hours every 2 weeks on this, or, no more than 10 hours a month dealing with this thing. It should patch itself automatically. We should, if we have an option for that, we should set it up. Hopefully it's stable and doesn't have any downtime. How much downtime are we expecting from it, that kind of thing? So maybe the whole big thing is, add that to your criteria when you're doing vendor explanations. So
my rule of thumb is, if I can't do it myself without a consultant to set it up for me, I don't want it.
Are you using Salesforce? Are you using Salesforce?
I don't use Salesforce.
You've got to have some kind of CRM. What do you use for a CRM? I'm sorry, you don't have to tell me. That was a wrong question. But
Excel spreadsheet.
Hey, you know what? Great. 100%. I don't need a consultant for that. So, or maybe I do. It's like Workday or, Oracle. You almost need a consultant for Oracle or, Salesforce. What's the other one? Salesforce. What's the other big one?
Spot.
Who?
HubSpot.
Maybe. Yeah. I was thinking it was something like yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, because if like to Mr. Betcher's point, if you're getting a consultant, you're getting headcount without actually getting headcount. So
I guess they didn't get bought. They want
Possibly,
to get trying to get bought.
I mean, it's okay to hire someone to manage the tool if it's that big a deal, but you shouldn't require an expert to set something up. You should have someone on your staff that's capable of doing that. Whether you have to hire that person or not. But
the first sim I ever worked on, we had a consultant from CDW come in and set it up over the course of like a week.
Yeah.
He could barely get it set up and running. I'm like, I'm screwed.
It's just too complicated then. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because there you go. It's again, it's a best practice, but the level of effort is going to be high there. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was trying to
find at that point, if that were me, and this is just my opinion, if that were me and I had to, or they suggested strongly that I need to hire someone, or it included a week's worth of someone's time to help me set it up,
right?
Then I'm leaning toward going to a competitor,
right?
Because it shouldn't be like that,
right?
They should, as they're developing the tool, they should have the customer in mind that, okay, this thing should be intuitive, it should be simple, it should be configurable on the fly by someone who works for our customer or is our customer, things like that. We shouldn't have to be called and set up an appointment to, modify some setting.
Right.
Should be
Right.
easy.
Yeah, and or
2024.
You also want to be a product manager, Brian?
Sure. I think she was talking to you, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he is a product
Maybe
manager.
I should be. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all of that rambling to the point of, hey, if your best practices are, maybe that's something you should audit is like, hey, are we doing too much work on this thing? Why are we spending so much time on this firewall? Maybe on Monday when everybody goes into work, or, your Monday, whenever you watch this, your next day, you go in and go, how much time are we wasting on the firewall? How much time are we wasting on EDR? Are there things that we can do to reduce our work on that so that we can actually get other work done? Like all the shit in our backlog that we haven't got, looked at yet because we're supposed to, or, hey, here's an audit coming up. Maybe we could get a little, head start on that thing. So maybe go
I
in.
I shouldn't have to call support to add a new domain to whatever system. Yeah.
Right.
Because I bought a new URL.
Right. And it's a perfect time. It's mid-June. So if you're starting to look for new vendors, this would be a great time for you to go through and look at and go, this thing's taking up really a lot of our time. Maybe we were promised it was going to be hands off, and now it's our big pain in the ass. So maybe there's time to start going in and looking at new solutions that you can use, or like Mr. Betcher said, combine solutions. If somebody has your VPN, maybe they see if they've got the firewall bit added to that, and maybe you can go in and maybe you could save yourself some time and money, maybe.
Yeah, maybe your gateway software also has identity features.
Right. Maybe you've been using the same, endpoint security, but you've never had it managed, and, an MSP would save you time and money. Miss Berlin, do you know anybody that would be able to, manage your MSP EDR implementations? Who's that?
I said tons.
Tons? Yeah. I don't know anybody either.
There was an EDR vendor that had $1 million ransomware guarantee, and somebody called them on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so they investigated, and they found out that the EDR was misconfigured by the client. So yes, it may pay to... Now, whose fault was that? Was it the vendor for making it too complicated? Right? Or was it the customer for, just doing something dumb?
Yeah.
Right. Was it this one?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Well,
What are you pointing to? You're pointing to
I'm sorry, the Zoom chat, which I have right there. So I put a link in there for that.
I'm pretty sure.
Not the one I heard.
Oh, it isn't the one you heard?
Really?
Just fantastic.
Some of that's marketing, though, right? I mean, like the LifeLock guy, he put his freaking
right.
It's like that must have been a marketing thing, or he really believed in the product. Oh, that one. Okay.
That's the company that was running, that we found running, exploit
Inside
code
baseball
on every endpoint.
Right. Oh yeah, they announced that back in 2016. That $1 million protection warranty thing. Wow.
Now I know the one you mentioned does have the $1 million insurance. I think it's insurance, right?
Yeah.
They offer that.
So is it like
on how much you buy?
If you successfully ransomware that company, does the person that ransomware them get the $1 million?
Are you talking about the first company I mentioned, or the second one there?
Either.
Oh, let's see. Securing them against financial implications of a ransomware attack. Yeah. If the company indeed suffered an attack and SentinelOne is unable to block or remediate the effects. So yeah.
I'm just saying their blocking and remediation is not the best.
Well, I think
a
none of them are.
A lot of them have their flaws. Some of them can be shut off by the attackers, or there could be a firewall rule put in place where it stops communicating with the cloud,
Right.
and so the attacks happen, and nobody's the wiser,
Yeah.
Right.
especially if it's an audit mode or not blocking mode, right? So
Yep. Yeah.
the entire organization could be ransomware and nobody knows about it.
Sorry, that's a better link there. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is marketing hype, I think, for me. They have to figure out how they can set themselves apart. There's a article I just posted from LinkedIn about apparently somebody's got some EDR telemetry project to be able to do measurement of at least 15 different endpoint security groups. So, and the quotients coming out of those: CrowdStrike, MDE, Harv, FangLab, Cortex, Trellix, Elastic. So they took 16 different companies and they're running the EDR telemetry project against these things and figuring out the effectiveness of an EDR. So I'm assuming
are they letting the EDR companies configure it beforehand, or are they the ones who are running the test configuring it?
So
the vendors will say, nope, you didn't allow us to configure it. So there's probably something wrong, and that's why we scored low or whatever.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, they can always say, well, if you'd have done this, then we would have blocked it, or there'd have been a partial mitigation, and they're already coming at them. So the LinkedIn article I posted up, I'll put it in our chat, our show notes as well. They said this repo provides a list of telemetry features from EDR products and other endpoint agents such as Sysmon, broken down by category. The main motivation behind this project is to enable security practitioners to compare and evaluate the telemetry potential from these tools while encouraging EDR vendors to be more transparent about the features they do provide to their customers and users. So, it almost sounds like, how good is the telemetry, what kind of actions they can get from those things, and they've got it kind of broken down by a capability matrix, like Mr. Betcher said. There's, if you're interested in that, there's a link, and you can go and check that out. So, cool. Man, I learned a lot. Thank you for all letting me, pick my brain and explain my thinking there, because I didn't have a sounding board, so I didn't know who to, reach out to on that. Is there anything else we want to talk about? How's your barn dominium, Mr. Betcher?
Not done yet.
I saw them. We went to East Texas, and there's a airplane neighborhood kind of thing, and they have these huge hangars connected to their houses so they can drive their Cessnas after they land into the cars. So I was like, okay, that's a barn dominium. Right on. Right on. Well, hope the weather stays well enough for you to be able to do that. I saw that there was nothing but a whole mess of thunderstorms and tornadoes in East Texas and western Louisiana. So I'm hoping it doesn't shift further west for you. So, yeah. Is there anything else we want to talk about?
I'm just reading about, I heard something about Carbon Black. Like I don't want to say they're halting business, but
Are you trying to ruin all of our potential sponsors? No, I'm just kidding. Carbon, I had Mandiant at one time, and they obviously ceased. They were a Google. That's a shame. I did see something in the news today saying they were going to lay off 1,500 people in Microsoft next week.
That owns them, right? It was via Carbon Black, and then BlackBerry bought them. Not BlackBerry.
Yep.
Is it BlackBerry?
Broadcom?
Yeah. Broadcom. Sorry, Broadcom. I knew it started with a B.
Broadcom to pause sale of Carbon Black.
Yes, so they're trying to sell it. And I know somebody that works there. It sounded like it was.
Well, I mean, it doesn't make. I mean, it was already a stretch for Broadcom to have VMware. Having a freaking ADR just goes further afield. Yeah. It's like, what the hell are you people? It's like, what was it, Honda? Honda makes everything from, hair dryers to construction equipment and everything underneath.
Oh,
yeah. Wow. Yeah, it tells VMware partners to halt commingled Carbon Black deals. So if you bought VMware with them, you could also get their EDR, which was Carbon Black. So now they're going to have to unbundle those. They said VMware channel should immediately stop bundling sales of these products together. So yeah, they're trying to spin Carbon Black off to something else. So that's too bad. It's too bad. And that was a while ago, November 2023. So
Oh, that's right. Broadcom bought Symantec a while back, and now they're merging it with Carbon Black.
oh, interesting.
That's right.
Interesting.
All right.
It's all going to be one big mungy ball of something. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I know.
yeah, there's something that's going to take a lot of your time, and you'll have to do a capability matrix on. So,
Yeah.
you know what, Mr. Betcher, we're talking about capability matrices. Maybe that's why people use Gartner.
Why would people use Gartner? Because of the capability matrices.
They're doing the capability matrix bit, ain't they? They're telling you exactly what these vendors excel in.
I guess.
I mean, they're helping with it because you have to take your own tools that your company is using and check those boxes, right? Do I have this capability, this capability, this capability? And which tools fit into those categories? So you may have 3 checkboxes in one category.
Yep. Except Gartner in this case is telling you that on, this is the best one, right? If you've got these 5 things, it's almost like hiring an employee, right? You have 8 requirements that you need, but Salesforce gets 6.5 of those. Whereas they're the only ones who do that because Salesforce actually paid for everything. So every other, requirement that didn't put them in a positive light, they get that report. Or on Tuesday, the 15th, during a thunderstorm, they were the best, that kind of thing. It's just one of those things. But I think I just invented Gartner with the capability matrix you were talking. I just invented the new Gartner. So
For free.
You're really rich.
yeah, patent pending, trademarked, y'all, trademarked. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get to, well, not me, but people on my team are gonna get to go through the patent process here soon, I think, which is
Really?
gonna be really interesting. Yeah, we're just
Really?
starting.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
Cool. I have to read that patent when y'all get it. Well, that'll be 2-3 years down the line. So,
Right.
if,
That's a lot of work, I guess.
if I'm not wearing adult diapers by then it'll be, maybe I'll have a chance to read it. I don't know.
That's a leap.
Well, I'm colonoscopy years old, so it is what it is. So, yeah. Well, I think we can go. If anybody else has anything else, we can be found on Discord and our Slack. You can grab our Discord, of which I'm usually on. Miss Berlin is on much less, and Mr. Betcher's never on. So if you want to, join our Discord there, we also have a Slack. You can go and
minute. I just,
yeah, every once in a while. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's different than Slack. It's different than Discord. Different than Slack for different reasons, for different things. So, we have both. If you want to join our Slack, you can find us on Twitter. Miss Berlin, how would the people find you on the Twitters or the Mastodons or the Blue
LinkedIn,
Skies?
probably still.
Or LinkedIn. LinkedIn is good. Yeah. Mr. Betcher, how about?
I opened my Twitter account for the first time in a while just to see what Grok, like, how do I get Grok? What is this Grok? But it's a paid thing.
What?
So
Yeah.
Grok.
XAI.
Oh yes, Elon's AI in Twitter. So
Just to compare between ChatGPT, see what the different answers are, which one's better for me.
Right. I have yet to use it. So I interrupted you, Miss Berlin. You said you were saying something about LinkedIn. You're just on there more, I think.
Yeah, I mean, all social media has kind of taken a back seat to other stuff.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
Time
You can,
suck.
yep, it is a time suck. Yeah.
Really is.
Yeah. It's a bit painful sometimes. So, yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I'm still on Twitter only because, it gives me something to do during the day. I am on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, you can, follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@BrakeSecEd. Our VOD will be over there in about 3 hours. And you can join me on Tuesdays and Fridays. Supposed to be normally Fridays, but I had to go do something this week on Fridays. But on Tuesdays we'll have some interviews, or we'll do some news, or we'll just sit here and talk and chat. Come in if you're having any kind of issues, IT or security wise, or maybe you just want to see a friendly face. So twitch.tv/BrakeSec. So that was it for this week's episode. Cool. And I'm Brian, Mr. Betcher, Miss Berlin. Thank you both for coming. Appreciate you. And that was it. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Take care of yourselves, because as we're fond of saying, you're the only you have. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.